Hi, I'm MJ from Lioness Publications, and what we're going to look at today is John Fetterman. He's sort of a character, um, and people have been very worried about him because they think that he might be siding just a little too much with the GOP rather than with the Democrats. I mean, he is very pragmatic in some ways and very outspoken. But he is sort of a unique character. Um, I just want to mention a few things in his natal chart, and then we're going to talk about his transits, his progressions, and his solar arc. And like I said, he's an interesting character. We're not going to get into any of the medical issues he had. I don't really, like to delve into that unless there's some reason to. So one of the things we're going to look at here is that we've got Jupiter in his natal chart conjuncting Uranus. So opportunities and being unique. So just sort of changeable. And that's a very powerful piece in his whole chart. And I'm going to come to something else a little later here because it throws off some of the other things you might be very stabilizing. So that's a little unstabilizing. Now, let's take a look at some of the angles, specifically to this Uranus right now. We actually have Saturn and Neptune actually making oppositions, which is conflict. Saturn, it's likely he's getting a lot of conflict from a lot of Democrats because he's being very outspoken on things that Democrats would rather that he not be outspoken on. Now we have Neptune also opposing Uranus. Those are his ideals. They may be in conflict with the way he's thinking. So we have that little bit of an issue. We also, transit-wise, have Pluto making a trine to Uranus. Trine. And Uranus making a trine to Uranus. So this is just sort of a crazy time for him in that he's going to be able to build a foundation on being a little different, which he already has. And hopefully he can be pragmatic and not take it over the top. Uranus, again, is that craziness in him, that changeability, that looking at things in a different viewpoint. Now, I also want to mention that in his natal chart, he has Mars in square to Mercury. Oh, of course, So this is in effect what? Clashing between his mind and where he moves, what he moves towards. So in effect, sometimes he'd be better off not speaking about things, but he does. Maybe keeping his own counsel. And he also has Mars in conjunct here to where is my Saturn? Here to Saturn. So what is that? Mars, in effect, the motion, Saturn trying to hold back. So in effect, you've got trying to break free of this narrow, view. And he's doing a good job of that. Now, that can be very frustrating, though. So, it could get, you can't break free. Sometimes you can't break free of something. You feel like, obstacles. Now, I do want to mention before I get into the progression, I mentioned once that typically when you have a Republican, they tend to have more fire and earth. The energy, the drive, and then earth stability, the very concrete. Versus Democrats tend to have more water, very, empathetic sign, and air, very, intelligent mind. So they're more prone to thinking versus GOP to acting. So Democrats will plan out things, make sure everything, is aligned, and Mars will just, and GOP will just act. Doesn't say one is good or one is bad, but it tends to be the way it breaks out. Now, it's not always that way, but a lot of times when you take someone that's real conservative, you'll see things like Capricorn showing up in their chart. Uh, you'll see other signs that, the fire and the earth. And in Democrats, Libra, Aquarius, the air signs, and the water. So let's take a look at how his signs break out. Well, his sun is in fire. His Mercury is in Earth. It's in Virgo. And that can be a pretty, I don't want to say stubborn, but very thoughtful sign, very methodological, very focused on doing a procedural type of thinking. Venus is in water, so he can be emotional. His home life is important. And we have Jupiter in Libra, which is an air sign. We have Saturn in earth sign, which is Taurus. We have Uranus in air, which is Libra. We have Neptune in water. And then we have Pluto in earth. So what does that break down to? Well, you have 2 fires. You have 4 earth, which gives you 6, and then air 2 and water 2. In this case, his signature is almost coming out to be a GOP, except he's got this crazy Jupiter conjunct Uranus. And that Uranus is going to bring that little bit of uniqueness, of change, of that, free thinking, free spirit into this. So if people think that he might go change over to GOP, well, he's got the markings for it, but I think that Uranus and Jupiter conjunction will probably say, nah, don't want to go there. They're too stuck in the mud. Okay, let's take a look at, and just to say, with this Pluto, Uranus, and Uranus trine that's happening, this is a time of pretty big opportunities for him. He can actually start creating a foundation. Remember, Pluto is foundations. He can have a good deal of power. He can manipulate people. But since this is a trine, it's usually a good way. So, meaning he can get people to come to see his point of view. So it's not manipulating or blackmailing them to do that. It's more of a explaining so people will move that way normally. So let's take a look at his progression. And look where this is. So on the progression, what we have is Mercury is conjuncting Uranus. Oh, Uranus again. Again, with Uranus showing up like this and being activated, I don't think he's going to switch over to be a GOP. Maybe later, but not now. There's too much of that uniqueness, that freedom, and conservatives right now are just trying to keep, trying to rein people in, literally. Now, I've also got Mars trying, where is my Mars? Yeah. Trying Mercury. So in this case, this is actually going to help him put his plans into motion. So this is his actions, and in his natal chart, it's hitting his Mercury. So actions or the movement towards what he's thinking, what his plans are. That's a good angle. Same thing with that Mercury conjunct Uranus, good angles. Next one we have is Venus is conjuncting the South Node. Now, there's a little bit of karma associated with any type of angle to the South and North nodes. In this case, the South Node is where Venus is conjuncting. South Node is where you give out. What are you giving out? Venus. Your luxuries. In effect, your comforts. Your old values start to move out. So yeah, I could see that maybe he starts to change and grow, that he's in politics. But again, I'm not seeing him moving towards the GOP. So let's take a look at our next one. and that is the solar arc. So, what do we have here? Well, we have Mercury, which is opposing. Where's my Saturn? Mhm. Right here. Okay. So we have Mercury opposing Saturn here. Now, when we think of Mercury, it's our thoughts. Saturn is our restrictions or our ability to create structure. And to create structure, we need to focus because foundation is sort of what holds everything up. The structure is what holds things together. So the tendency is to bring everything in. Now, this is an opposition, which means that his structure may no longer be in tune with the way he's thinking. So maybe he is thinking broader. Maybe he may be embracing some GOP, lines. But I'm not saying that this moves into actually switching parties. Now, next thing is we've got Mars, and that is trining Jupiter. So over here, Mars is coming over to trine Jupiter. Great angle. That means that he can make opportunities. Mars action, Jupiter is where we can grow, we can expand. So this is literally saying that he has some control over the direction he can go in. He can make opportunities in the path that he is pushing to go down. So that's a great angle. Now we also have Venus here trying Saturn. Another great angle. So what's this? Our comforts, our community, trying Saturn, his, in effect, stability. So even though he's eccentric and maybe says things that, can really rile Democrats up, maybe there is a community that likes that likes who he is. I mean, he's a real person. And he doesn't pull punches on what he thinks and what he says. Now, lastly, what we have, though, is we have, where is my Saturn? Squaring Uranus. Now, that already happened. Okay. Now, Saturn, in effect, is restriction. Uranus, in effect, freedom. That would have been about 2 years ago when that happened. So that could have also been one of the things that was happening when he had his issue with the stroke. Now, in general, I hope you can understand that he has a lot of great angles here. So this is a time for him to grow. It gives him opportunities to pursue the direction he wants to go in. While he seems like he might have very GOP types of leanings, I think with the very prominent Uranus in his chart, he's always going to be sort of off kilter, meaning that he's not going to be aligned directly with Democrats or with GOP, but he's probably going to be more at home with Democrats than with the GOP. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget, I have a website. It has, it details my services. So take a look and have a great evening. Bye now.